Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of This Week in the XFL. I'm your host, as always, the referee representing XFL Newsroom, the number one source, in XFL news. So before we get started, we wanted to talk about it just one more time, maybe a couple more times. But we have that 1,000 subscriber giveaway going on right now. We have about 35 subscribers left until we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. So here's what we're doing. If you subscribe, like, or comment on this video or any of the videos since this giveaway has started, you'll be entered into the contest. And if you're already subscribed, every video that you like and comment on is another entry in the giveaway. And here's what we're doing. We're giving away a hat just like this one. Plus, we're probably going to throw some extra goodies in that bag, so sign you up, click the buttons like we mentioned, and you will be entered. And maybe next week or maybe the week after, we will finally announce the winner of our 1,000 subscriber giveaway. So we're getting closer to the draft. News is dried up. It's not, there's not so much going on. You can see the excitement dying down a little bit in the crowds online, but the good news is there's still folks watching, there's still folks reading, and there's still folks waiting to hear more news about the XFL. So that's why we're here every Friday for This Week in the XFL. So first we're going to start off about the XFL season ticket selection. Right, so last week we talked about the fact that they were possibly looking at adding additional premium sideline seating to their games, right? We don't know if that's something that they're going to do for sure, if something they're going to test out at maybe some of the venues, but we know it's something that they're exploring. At least that's according to the president of Elevate, the people that are handling their ticket sales. So earlier this week, the XFL, or at least the franchises in the XFL, sent emails to all the folks that have deposits down for season tickets, basically saying, hey, they're coming. They're gonna send an email by the end of the month. Everybody's gonna have a specific date and time that they're gonna be able to select their seats, right? It doesn't say how long that date and time period is gonna last for. Initially, the website did mention September 25th. It seems like that date has been taken down, so we don't know if it's going to be a fluid date, if it's going to be a specific date for everyone. But it sounds like it's coming by the end of this month. So if you did receive one of these emails, it's going to give you a link to basically create your profile, right? To have everything ready. And when you log in, by default, I think it gives everybody 2 general admission tickets. Now, I don't know if that means that they are going to sell tickets for $50 for 2 tickets. I don't know. Or $50 a ticket for a season. I don't think so, but we may find out. It may be as cheap as that. And that would be, as I like to say, cheap as chips. So we know the league was targeting some affordable pricing, right? We heard anywhere between $25 to roughly $100 per game, give or take a couple dollars. Right, so that would leave you right around $125, $100 for a season ticket, depending on where that price point matches, up to maybe $500. And if you ask me, that's pretty darn cheap, right? Again, if you're looking at the closest competitor, right, that would be the NFL. You're not going to get cheap tickets like that anywhere near the field, right? And now if you're able to get a front row 50-yard seat for $100, $500 for the season, I'm signed up all day and night. But it looks like we'll have our answers soon enough, right? September, we're about halfway through. We have 10 days left. So, just about time. Maybe next week we'll be talking about the finalized prices, the finalized seating options. Maybe they have different packages. Maybe you can get, seats in the nosebleed for half the season, but some luxury seats for the other half. We'll just have to find out, but as always, we'll keep you updated and make sure you're checking out XFLnewsroom.com daily, because there's a reason we're the number one source in XFL news. We're always the first to break that story, so let's get signed up. The next thing we want to talk about is some of the things that are happening in the NFL, and specifically how they're going to impact or already have impacted the XFL draft pool, right? So even before the season started, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago, Andrew Luck announced his retirement. Now, there was speculation that maybe he was going to come to the XFL. We do not subscribe to that idea. It's always fun to think about, but we don't think that that was the reason or that that is going to happen at least anytime soon. But since then, we've seen, a significant amount of injuries, and we've only just wrapped up the second week, right? We've seen Foles go out for a significant amount of time. We've seen Darnold get mono. We've seen Drew Brees get a thumb injury. He's out for a good chunk of time. And then Sunday it was announced Ben Roethlisberger would be missing the rest of the season. That's huge news. Now, once that happened, interestingly enough, Landry Jones started trending on Twitter, and that's when a lot of folks learned that, one, Landry Jones had signed with the XFL, and two, that, hey, the XFL is a thing again, or it's a thing, which it's good. I like that free promotion. But yeah, the fact of the matter is, Landry Jones is signed to a contract. From what I understand, it's a 2-year contract, but it wasn't released. It wasn't really confirmed on what it was specifically, but that's what we understand. But at bare minimum, he's signed for this season. He's committed to not playing in the NFL for this season at least, to play in the XFL, right? So that takes him out of the running. But what did happen, and it seems like, oh, that's great news. The XFL executed when they needed to, and they did. But there was some other things that happened. So earlier, right, during the preseason, we talked about the battle in Seattle, as did the XFL podcast, which you can check out on this channel. So make sure you subscribe to me and that. And, realistically, now we've seen Paxton Lynch, who was a potential candidate to be one of those tier 1 quarterbacks in the XFL. Well, now the Steelers have signed him, so that takes him out of the market, right? On some other good news, though, since we're talking about Seattle, another name that was signed there that Norm Chow spoke about, and as did we a few weeks ago, was Cardale Jones. So the Seahawks have now released him from their practice squad, so he is now once again a free agent. And I bet you the XFL has been making some phone calls to get that name secured. Because with all of these different injuries happening within the NFL, the XFL needs to execute now, right? The draft is potentially in a month, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. But it's coming up. Now, there is some wiggle room, right? I bet you, if later in the season a potential tier 1 quarterback becomes available, they would sign them after the draft, right? Because again, we still don't know how many drafts there's going to be, how the tier 1 quarterbacks are going to be handled. But I still would believe that the phone calls were going on this week when Cardale Jones was released, because one, we know there's interest from at least one team in the league, and that's the Wildcats of LA. Two, you're going to want to secure these guys before other people in the league start getting injured and they start picking up these players. So that's really what's going on right now. We're heading into week 3. We still have a whole season ahead of us, a whole playoffs ahead of us, and then February 8th, we're kicking off with the XFL, and I'm getting excited. But before we get to the kickoff, we have the major thing, the next big step for the league coming up, and that's the XFL Draft. And we've heard this week alone a whole bunch of different dates, or at least potential dates for the XFL Draft. So earlier, a few weeks ago, we reported that we had heard the 15th and the 16th, and that was based on a couple things, just from some social media action, as well as some interviews with some of the XFL coaches. Subsequently, those interviews have been pulled off the internet. That was for some different reasons around the team names, I believe. But, so there's really nothing that we can show you, but we heard it and some other folks heard it as well. So that's the 15th and the 16th. But earlier today, or earlier Thursday rather, there was a post from potential XFL draft pool player that said the draft was going to take place between the 13th and the 15th. So I figured what would be a fun thing to do is look at maybe the reasons we're seeing some different dates, maybe try to focus in on what the dates are, But in all reality, they may just not be confirmed yet. The league may not know exactly when the draft is going to happen. But we're also going to talk about the possibility of broadcast and things like that. So let's first address maybe the reason we're seeing multiple dates or date ranges, if you will. Now, we did speak about the potential of having multiple drafts, or at very minimum, a tier 1 quarterback draft and a main draft, or we really don't know. So that could be a reason we're seeing these multiple dates. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think they're close, though. That's what's interesting. They all happen in the same week. So I think that is an interesting note there. So I think if there's anything that we're getting out of this, if these are true, or at least close to true, that it is going to happen the week of the 15th of October, right? Which is a little bit less than a month away. So we're getting close. But again, nothing's been confirmed by the league. There's no official news on when, what time, where it's going to take place. But I have some thoughts. I have some theories on it, right? I know a lot of people are expecting some grand production out of the draft, but it's something that you might have to get yourselves ready for, that it may not happen. It may not be a big production event. And quite honestly, I think that's a smart move. And here's why. The XFL is going to want to come out with a bang, right? And what I mean is their first production should and probably will be the first XFL game. The reason for that is ratings and other things of that nature, right? Because the way people perceive things is funny. Now, if the XFL does a draft on TV, and not very many people watch because maybe it overlaps with a different NFL game, people are going to notice that. People are going to talk about it. More importantly, it's going to get published. And you don't really want that kind of bad press right now. Now, that's not to say that that is what would happen, or that's even in their rationale going into this decision. But I don't think there is going to be a production regardless. Now, I don't think there's going to be a central location either. I think basically what's going to happen is each team is going to have a war room. They're going to communicate, and they're going to be shooting off draft picks. It's not going to be a big elaborate thing like you see in the NFL. Now, that's not to say that we won't get that, and that's not to say that we won't get it in the future if it doesn't happen now. But something you need to remember is the league is still in those building stages. They're still making the key hires, right? We just learned the team identities. We're learning some of the people that have been invited to the draft. Click the link down in the description for the invite tracker. We're up to about 170 now, but that's of 800 total. 800 people are going to be in this draft pool, a lot of which have already been invited, but we just don't know who they are yet, right? But one thing is for sure is once the draft happens, or maybe even during the draft via social media, we will be learning who these picks are going to be. And I think really that's the most important part. So, take it for what you will. This is, again, only my opinion. This is opinion zone, not news zone right now. But, every now and then the referee needs to throw that yellow flag and say, hey, let's take a look at the facts here. And at least that's what I think is going on. But again, we have about a month, so I'm sure we will learn soon. So before we end this, we have one more big story, and it's not really that big of a story, but it's an interesting story. So we have some more details on the conversion of Globe Life Park from a baseball diamond to a football field. So thanks to @Park, one of our Twitter followers, for supplying this to us. He sent us a link to the project page on texas.gov for this conversion project. And according to this document, it looks like the construction is going to start October 10th, which is just 12 days after the MLB regular season ends, right? Which it looks like the Rangers aren't making it to the postseason. So that's good news for XFL and XFL fans, because, if this got delayed, this could cut into that XFL season. We'll look at that here sooner. Probably not so exciting to hear if you are a Rangers fan, unfortunately, but The good news is it looks like construction will stay on track, and it looks like it's going to finish up the 14th, so on Valentine's Day of 2020. So what does that mean? Well, it doesn't look like we're going to get a home game for Dallas week 1, at least if this is true, or construction doesn't follow through, right? Maybe it finishes early. Maybe they are able to do it, but I would assume they're already in the stages of building the schedules out, and they already know, well, if this is scheduled to be this way, let's just play it safe. Now, something that is unfortunate, right? That is cutting it pretty close to, the season. If that does get delayed, we could see some problems, but hopefully not. Hopefully that's not the situation. According to the scope of work, it says renovation of existing field to accommodate an XFL regulation football field with an addition of about approximately 4,000 seats, sideline bleachers, Other renovations include 2 locker/shower rooms with a broadcast suite renovation. So it's interesting to see some of these details, because we did see some mock-ups way earlier this year of what they were going to do with the field, but now we know, okay, they're going to move some things around, add about 4,000 sideline bleachers, some new locker rooms, shower rooms, and an upgrade broadcast suite. So that's always a good thing. Now, what's interesting to note here, and we don't really have confirmation on who the tenant may be in this instance, but it says who is paying for it, and it says the tenant, right? So that could be the Rangers, which was reported that the Rangers were going to pay for this. It could mean the XFL is going to chip in a little bit too. Now, we have seen the league, pay their fair share, at least in St. Louis with the Dome. They put in significant renovations. They're paying 4 times more than what the Rams were. So, I'm signed up on that. A lot of these times when you hear, stadiums being built, it's really the taxpayers paying that, and we see the league making the payments here, and that I really like that, and I don't think that'll last forever, but while we're here, sign us up. Sign you up, XFL, for investing in the things that you need to invest in. I think they're proving to you and everyone else that they mean business this time around. So, but, great news on that front. Like I said, no home game, it looks like, for Dallas, but maybe they'll be out here in Houston. I'm looking forward to it. Bob Stoops versus June Jones. That is going to be a fun game when we finally get to see it, as will a lot of the games. We have a lot of different fun aspects to it between the coaches, and as the players come through, I think we'll see some natural rivalries just based on that as well, and not just region. But, before we let you go, we want to talk about a couple things. So, like I mentioned, comment, like, subscribe, get entered into that giveaway. We're giving away one of these hats. We're going to throw in some extra goodies there. We're about 35 subscribers away from 1,000. And again, we're also on Facebook and Twitter, so make sure you follow us there at XFL Newsroom. Pretty sweet handle if you ask me. Getting signed up. And since we're on YouTube, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to see when we're dropping new videos. Some are going to be live and some are going to be pre-recorded, just like this one. So until next time, sign you up.